All right, here we go. Happy Red Friday to all of you. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Welcome into a week 9 edition of the Red Friday live chat. It is a Germany Red Friday edition, a Red Friday live chat edition. Yeah, the Chiefs are overseas for this one. Obviously, a lot of people have their opinions about that, but we already went over that on Wednesday's podcast. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that kind of thing. As a matter of fact, if you guys, for those of you who are new, this is your guys' little deal. You guys get to decide the topics, the conversations. I usually open with my monologue. Also, if there's any news, which there is to get to regarding Justin Ross, I'll touch on that. And then I open up to you guys for questions, comments, whatever is on your mind. I want to hear from you guys. You guys speak up. Let me know what is on your mind. Chiefs related, non-Chiefs related. Hey, listen, we've gone out of bounds so many times on these things. We've had times where we talk about food or movies, barbecue, whatever it is, travel. We have fun when we do these kinds of things. So please let me know what you guys are thinking, what questions you have, what is on your mind. Here's where I want to start for this Red Friday live chat is discussing turnarounds, because obviously last week absolutely sucked. No ifs and or buts about it. I'm not looking for excuses. I know some people keep bringing up the flu and all that stuff with Mahomes. Listen, man, I don't. If I was an athlete and I had to play with the flu in the cold, I don't think I would do well. But I'm still not going to sit here and use that as an excuse. You guys know me. Anyone that's followed me long enough knows I don't bitch and moan about bad plays or bad conditions, the refs. Get that shit out of here. Miss me with that. So you guys all know my stance on all of that shit. Listen, the Chiefs and Titans playoff game, go look back at my commentary, and I got crucified for the things I said. So I'll leave it at that. But nonetheless, the Chiefs, if you watched any of today's press conference in Germany, you can tell, like, Andy Reid, another separate press conference where they had Kelce, Jones, Butker, and Reid. All 6 of those guys who spoke to the media today, they look like they were ready to move on. They weren't hanging their heads about last week. They weren't, all upset about the conversation. Did come up about last week. That came up, but no one's hanging their head, thinking, oh, how humiliated we got. You can just tell from their tone. And this is a crew that, they just got off a long flight, went straight to practice, and then they did their media obligations. Man, they looked like they were in a pretty damn good mood. So that's encouraging to see. You need to see a positive mindset with this football team moving forward, coming off a humiliating loss. And listen, they've got no time to be embarrassed about what happened last week, because they've got a pretty good football team they're playing next. So that, to me, is the most important thing going into Sunday's game. Here's my thing: is this is the team that can turn things around. Have things been perfect this year? No. But with the way people talk about the offense and specifically the wide receivers, you would think this is a middle of the pack AFC team, and they're not. They're literally tied for the number 1 seed in the AFC right now. Obviously, they've got the tiebreaker. Of course, that means nothing in week 9, but this game, even though it's a week 9 game, this game on Sunday morning has huge playoff implications. I don't want to sit here and say that the winner of this team gets the number 1 seed, but I would say there's a very good chance that the winner of this game is going to hold on to the number 1 seed, unless something insane happens in the second half of the season. So this is going to be a big deciding factor by the end of the year. And if you win this football game on Sunday, whether you're the Chiefs or the Dolphins, you have a little bit of breathing room in the second half. Not too much, but at least a little bit, because that win over whoever wins, the Chiefs or the Dolphins, that's going to be huge for the AFC. I know in Buffalo, they're still very certain that they're going to win. I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about the fan base and the media there. They're very, very certain that they can win the AFC East. I know a lot of people here don't really care about that discussion, and that's okay. But my point is, I just don't know if the Dolphins are gonna not win this division. Tua's playing well. By the way, look, I know the Damar Hamlin story is a big one, and obviously, Bills and Bengals will play. I think that game is in Cincinnati, and I think that's relevant because that's where the rematch is going to be. That's where they were supposed to have their full Monday Night Football game last year. So there's a lot of storyline behind that. Listen, I think Damar Hamlin coming back is great. I think it's a wonderful story, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm really not. I don't think he's the comeback player of the year. I really don't. I think the voters are going to vote that way. I think Tua is not only a very strong candidate for MVP, I think this guy's your comeback player of the year. This is a guy that everyone said he should consider retirement after what he went through. I mean, that Thursday Night Football game where he had that scary injury where his fingers locked up, like, man, I mean, how could you not cringe just seeing that? Everyone worried for the guy. They brought the ambulance on the field to take him out. The things that Tua is doing this year after a roller coaster season last year, this guy to me is the comeback player of the year. I really believe that. Not everyone's going to agree, and I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. But I really do think he is your comeback player of the year for this season so far. In terms of the Chiefs, I know we got off topic there, but this Chiefs team, we've seen them lay eggs before, okay? 2019 against the Colts, 2020 against the Raiders, 2022 last season against the Colts. What do all three of those things have in common? The Chiefs went to the Super Bowl all three of those years. Obviously, the two times the Chiefs lost to the Colts, they go on to win the Super Bowl. So if you believe in those kinds of historical patterns, jinxes, curses, all these different things in sports, if you believe in those kinds of things, then I guess, when the Chiefs lose to the Colts, they win the Super Bowl. That's just the way it works. Unfortunately, if you believe in that kind of thing, unfortunately, the Colts are not on Kansas City's schedule this year. But I still think this is a team that a lot of people in the AFC are looking at that they fear, and they know that they're going to be a tough team to beat. And I'll say this: I mentioned some of the struggles. Look at 2021. That was the year where the Chiefs started 3-4. Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in interceptions. So obviously a very turnover-ridden team that year. And not just that, if you remember when the Chiefs started 1-2 that year, a lot of people in the media were actually going back to Super Bowl 55 and saying, well, if you include Super Bowl 55, the Chiefs were 1-3 in their last 4 games. People were using that as like their little, clickbait media spin type of thing. And it's like, look what happened. Obviously, it didn't end the way anyone wanted it to in the AFC Championship game, but they still made it further than anyone ever expected. And look what happened the following year when they lose Tyreek Hill. Everyone is writing them off from the get-go, and we all know the story after that. So this is a football team to me. And listen, I'll even go a little bit before Patrick Mahomes in 2015 when the Chiefs started 1-5. I remember Frank Bowl of Channel 41 at the time. I think he's retired now, just does a little bit of radio. Frank Bowl tweeted that the Chiefs had a 1.4% chance of making the playoffs, and they damn near came close to winning the division there. And that was, by the way, that 1-5 start. That was the same year they snapped that 22-year playoff drought. No one thought that it was going to happen during a 1-5 start to the season, but man, that's how Chiefs football works. If you've been watching Chiefs football long enough, weird things happen with the Chiefs. So my point is this: yeah, we've had bad starts in Kansas City before, 2015, 2021, and then in 2019, 2020, and 2022, the Chiefs had some embarrassing losses, games that they absolutely should not have lost. And they go on to win the Super Bowl. Listen, they lost to a team last year whose head coach eventually got fired during the season. Not that, you sugarcoat that for the Colts. They still had a terrible year last year. But my point is, the Denver loss, as embarrassing as it was, they're still 6-2. They're still on top of the AFC. They're still going to win the division. You can probably lose all of your division games. Not that it's ideal, but if you were to do that, hypothetically speaking, you're still winning the AFC West. The AFC West is not catching up to Kansas City anytime soon. They're just not. One bit of news earlier today. So some details have come out about Justin Ross and the situation that he's dealing with. Obviously, he's currently on the commissioner's exempt list. A lot of people had some opinions about that when that story came out. Well, according to an affidavit, Justin Ross allegedly threw his girlfriend to the ground and was throwing objects at her, all because of something he saw on his cell phone. Now, TMZ is reporting that there was alleged cheating involved. Okay, listen, man. I'm not Dr. Laura Schlesinger. I'm not here to give advice on that kind of thing. I'm just not. That's not my place to speak. Here's what I will say, dude. Relationships are not easy. I mean, listen, we've all gone through them before. Okay, we've all had breakups. We've all gone through that. No one likes going through that kind of stuff. My thing is, if you're a professional athlete, even a college athlete, you have a lot of things going for you. Doesn't mean you live a perfect life. Not at all. Listen, I'm not going to go into the details, but if you look at the Mahomes family and some of the things they're tweeting, like, you can tell they're insinuating some family drama. In fact, Randy Mahomes, Patrick's mom, actually called out his sons once publicly. She got so much backlash for it and deleted it. My point is, doesn't matter if you are working a 9-to-5 job, doesn't matter if you're Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback on the planet. You deal with personal shit in your life. Every single person does. How you handle these kinds of things, I think differs from person to person. If he really was being cheated on, that sucks. But there are laws in this country. There are rules in the NFL, things that you cannot do no matter how bad something was. The only way any of this can be acceptable is if any of this was done in self-defense. And according to all these reports, court documents, affidavits, none of this was done in I said court documents. I'm sorry, I meant police reports. None of this was done in self-defense, as far as we know. I don't know if, by the way, I'm seeing some people say ban Justin Ross from the NFL. He's not getting banned from the NFL. He will get an opportunity somewhere else, whether it is in the NFL or maybe in another football league. He's not getting barred from football. The only person I've ever had that happen to them was Ray Rice. Kareem Hunt, a lot of people compared the Kareem Hunt incident to Ray Rice, and Kareem Hunt ended up getting a second chance. And his actions were on video. And he had two other incidents where there was physical violence involved, allegedly. And he still is getting opportunities in the NFL. Justin Ross will get a chance. Now, what are the Chiefs going to do? How are they going to handle this? I have no idea. In fact, what time is it in Germany? Because my whole thing is, like, do the Chiefs... Okay, it's 11:56. This came out about 2 hours ago. So, a lot of these guys are probably going to hear about this when they wake up. So, hopefully they're all getting some rest right now. But in a few hours, if they don't know about this now, they'll find out in a few hours. But we don't know exactly what the Chiefs are going to do yet. But it does not look good from Justin Ross' standpoint. All right, I am going to stop talking. I am turning it over to you guys. You guys get to ask questions, comments. Okay. I see you guys are commenting. I'm going to read through those right now. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything that you guys want to discuss, let me know, and I will answer them. Let's start off here. Gabriel says, our little hangout. Hell yeah, Gabriel. Much appreciated. From Oak Harbor, Washington. Okay. Gabriel, I think you've commented before mentioning Washington. I thought you meant DC, and then you've always you made it clear it's Washington State. So it's good to know. Paul says the Chiefs, I'm not sold on them, but next two games will tell me. Yeah, this is definitely, I think the Dolphins game is going to be their toughest test. I know the Dolphins, like if this was college football, their quality of wins, not very good. when you look at the rest of the teams that they have played, who they've won and who they've lost to. But yeah, from a Chiefs standpoint, yeah, their next 2 games are going to be huge. Both big games. You got the Dolphins in Germany, and then you have the Eagles on Monday Night Football. And obviously the Eagles, I think they've been like, outside of the Dolphins, probably the most consistent offense in the NFL. I mentioned Tyreek Hill's numbers on Wednesday's podcast, and A.J. Brown's really the only one who has come close. So yeah, listen, not that the embarrassment in Denver goes away, but if the Chiefs do win these next 2 games, no one's going to be talking about the Chiefs getting humiliated back in October. No one's going to be talking about that anymore. The Chiefs can simply prove that was a fluke. Again, this is a team that has had to deal with adversity before, and they've handled it really well. You understand something. And I think, just like the Denver undefeated streak, this is going to come to an end at some point. It has to. I mean, even Tom Brady has had his moments, but the Chiefs have gone to the AFC Championship game every single year, not just gone to it, hosted it. Every single year they've had Patrick Mahomes as starting quarterback. Is that going to come to an end at some point? Sure. Is it going to be this year? If the wide receivers don't pick it up, yeah, very good chance that this could happen this year. So to me, I just want to know how this team responds. So far, the way they're talking in the media, and I'll even go further back on Kelsey's podcast, which was recorded, I'm assuming, Tuesday evening. And Kelsey rather was pretty upfront, like, hey, we played like shit. And he used the word embarrassed multiple times. So, and he made it clear to the fans. And I this is the thing I appreciate. I've always said MMA fighters, they are the most honest athletes in the world. When they perform like shit, when they have an embarrassing moment, they will not hide from it. And Kelsey kind of did the thing that a lot of UFC fighters do, is that they will not hide from the world, and they will speak up and say, hey, look, one player who I have criticized so much is Richard Sherman. Phenomenal football player. Like, he's going into the Hall of Fame. But the guy loved to talk anytime things were going right. I still remember the year the Chiefs beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Doing this whole like tough guy act, going up to the media, not going up to them, but in the press conference, like basically rubbing it in their faces that they doubted them. It's like, dude, calm down. Like, he's a member of the media now. I don't see him predicting every single team to go undefeated. You have to predict certain things, and no one's ever going to bat 1,000 on their predictions. I hate when athletes do that kind of thing. But Richard Sherman, anytime this guy was winning, boy, he was there ready to talk. He was waiting for the microphone. And whenever things were not going his way, whether in Seattle or in San Francisco, he was nowhere to be found. So listen, I'll always give credit to any athlete that will stand in front of the camera, stand in front of the microphones, and take accountability. And I think Patrick Mahomes always does that. Patrick Mahomes, and it's funny, I don't understand like the hate for this guy sometimes. People say, oh, he always takes credit for everything. No, he doesn't. Not at all. Whenever he loses, he takes all the blame. And whenever he's winning, he credits everyone else. The coaches, his teammates, never takes credit for anything. So, you tell me. Like, that's what a leader is supposed to do. Yes, the Chiefs are indeed there. I'm guessing by my comments already, you probably have already received the answer to that question. Yeah, he's been doing a lot of talking. He seems to be like very down to earth. Like he's not talking as much. Shit. Okay, how do I get rid of this comment? There we go. Because when he got traded, boy, he had a lot to say about the Chiefs, and Tua's the most accurate quarterback ever in the NFL. Like, okay, all right. Now, like this week, it's like, oh yeah, I love those guys. I wish this was in Kansas City. It's weird. He started off his week by saying he wishes this was in Kansas City. Then he changed his tone and said he doesn't care. So I don't know. Which running back will they call up to replace CEH? Michael Pirine, hopefully. Yeah, is who's the other guy? The other running back. There was another running back. Prince. Bear with me, guys. Let me see the practice squad. Yeah, it's either going to be Pirine, Lamichael Pirine, or Deneric Prince. Couldn't think of his first name. There are two Princes on the practice squad. Didn't realize that. No one knows what Garrett Prince's number is. That's interesting. Did he just join the team? I don't know. Yeah, it's got to be one of those guys. I imagine. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been placed on IR. In fact, I don't even think Willie Gay was put on IR. In fact, he's been practicing this week. Richie James, he is still on injured reserve, but his 21-day window has opened, so he can practice. Yeah, people thought Justin Watson and Willie Gay were going to end up on IR, but they only ended up missing like a short amount of time. In Willie Gay's case, he hasn't missed a game yet, so we'll have to see what they decide to do with him. But I don't know if the Chiefs have an open roster spot. I don't think that's the case right now. Well, Paul says AFC West team has sold me the Bengals. AFC what team? Oh, okay. I thought he said AFC West. I was about to say, I don't think the Bengals are in the AFC West. Yeah, Brock Purdy, man, he's definitely taken steps back. I will say, I mean, you're mentioning all these games this Sunday. This might be the best slate of Sunday games from like the morning all the way to Sunday night. I'm trying to think of the last time we've ever seen, like, we've had some Sundays where we've had a lot of great games, but from 8:30 all the way to almost 11 o'clock, I don't think I can recall a time where they've had this much this many great games. I'm looking forward to Sunday's slate of games. I really am. Gonna get suspended 46 games by the NFL. Yeah, listen, I don't know with the NFL what they're gonna do. They take a long time on these kinds of things. And their suspensions are not always the most consistent. You guys know that. Oh, breaking news. Mark Zuckerberg tears his ACL. So I guess that fight with apparently he was planning on making a competitive MMA debut. I was not aware of that. I know they were trying to get that Elon Musk fight going, but that's not going to be happening anytime soon. Not going to be happening anytime soon. Justin Loss. Oh, geez. All right. When Tyreek does this, everyone looks the other way. Does the talking, you mean? I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Listen, he opened up about a lot of things. He said that this is more than a year ago, but he said that he tried to go home for like a family member's surgery, like on an off day, and apparently the Chiefs would not let him. That's his words, not mine. And then he wasn't happy with the lack of targets in a couple of games. Apparently on Shannon Sharp's podcast, the difference was guaranteed money. They could not agree on guaranteed money, which I think that's interesting. Why would Brett Veach not give him the guaranteed money? That's what I want to know. I mean, there are always provisions in these contracts. Anytime a player gets in trouble and gets re-signed, fans always say, well, put some things in his contract. That way, excuse me, he doesn't get paid everything if he gets in trouble. They do that stuff already. I'm sure they emphasize it even more if they re-sign a player who's gotten in trouble, but yeah, I don't know. He's opened up about a lot of things, and he still talks about wishing he was still there and whatnot. It's like, listen, here's the thing. He's done great. Even when Tua missed some games last year, Tyreek was still playing well. And the Chiefs obviously won a Super Bowl without him. If you followed the media in the Super Bowl, the week of the Super Bowl last year, one of the two things they kept talking about was Tyreek Hill. The other was Donna Kelsey. So obviously the Chiefs have done just fine without him, and Tyreek Hill has done just fine. No, the wide receivers are not great this year, but they're still tied for the best record in the AFC. Crazy enough. Yeah, it would be funny, especially for those who had a lot to say. Listen, a lot of Chiefs haters came out of the woodwork. None of these people were talking during that 6 game winning streak. So I found that very interesting. Thoughts on the lack of movement during trade deadline? Robert, I think what that tells you is Andy Reid and Brett Veach trust their guy. It wasn't just the lack of movement. The reports came out that they were not interested in doing anything. So that tells you Andy Reid trusts these guys 100%. Again, like what did I say earlier? This is a team that has started off slow at times, 2015, 2021, and they've also had, unexpected, embarrassing losses 3 times in recent years. So if there's ever a guy that's capable of turning things around, it is Andy Reid. There have been some really concerning starts in the past with the Chiefs, and Andy Reid found a way to turn shit around. So to me, it's just like, how much trust are you really putting in Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, MVS? Like, you really think this is your group of guys that you can win with? Okay, great. You got to prove it, though. Like, you got to start seeing production this Sunday, because if you don't have that, you're not winning this game, plain and simple. So to me, it's like, okay, that's great. And that's awesome that Andy has trust in his guys. And that's why you hear so much about guys who speak so highly of Andy Reid. All of his current and former players, I think the only person ever to badmouth Andy Reid, I want to say it's Le'Veon Bell. And if I'm not mistaken, he ended up deleting that post. So yeah, I don't know, man. I was hoping for something like a lot of you guys, but Andy Reid wants to. Part of me wonders, I know a lot of times they say, "Oh, we don't think about these kinds of things like legacy and whatnot," but come on, I don't buy that shit. I really think Andy Reid wants to go out there and prove a lot of people wrong and tell people that, hey, look, I was able to do it with this unit. Andy Reid even said in his press conference on Wednesday, he's like, because he was getting all these questions about the receivers. He goes, guys, a week ago, we were talking about how great they were. And he's right. The way they played against the Chargers, not perfect, but they put up 31 and they won that football game and they shut out the Chargers in the second half. No one was talking about the wide receivers then, although they were before that game still. It's been kind of a roller coaster for these wide receivers. They look good at times and they've looked very questionable at times. And listen, for anyone that says, Andy Reid doesn't think about that. Listen, Brett Veach did an interview. I can't remember with which local television station. And Brett Veach said, listen, Andy won't admit it. When this was right after, I think it was on the field after they beat the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, getting ready for the Eagles. Brett Veach said, Andy won't admit it, but this Super Bowl is going to be a big one for him. It's going to be a personal one for him. It's like, yeah, of course it is. He's a human being. These guys aren't robots. Of course, he wants to stick it to the franchise that fired him in the biggest game of the year. Of course he wants to. I think part of Andy Reid's, his ego is that, well-deserved. He's coached a long time and he's won a shit ton of games, 5th most in NFL history. He wants to be able to prove to everyone that, as much as everyone's doubting this offense right now, me included, he can try to prove everyone wrong with this. And for anyone who says they don't think coaches and players listen to this, listen, you heard Travis Kelce at the parade. Clark Hunt, after the AFC Championship went over the Bengals, Clark Hunt in his press conference with the media he actually mentioned the national media and how they reacted after the Tyreek Hill trade. I can't remember what he said word for word, but he said something to the effect of how if you listen to the media, you would think that we were going to take big steps back. It's like, man, they all pay attention. I remember when Herm Edwards was the head coach in Kansas City, he pretended to not pay one bit of attention to the media. Yet, if you guys know Damon Amendola, who's now with CBS Sports, he's done some things in Boston, Miami. He's moved around a few times. Now he's on the national stage on CBS Sports, which is awesome. He first ever guest on this podcast, by the way, back in 2007. Herm Edwards got in his face because of a comment, and I don't know what the comment was, but he got in DA's face over something DA said on the air. And by the way, Herm Edwards works in the media today. So, you know, do you really believe him when he says he didn't pay attention? Of course, these guys pay attention. By the way, a lot of people, I see more viewers coming in now. Thank you all for making this Red Friday live chat part of your Friday night. You all have better things to do on your Friday night. So thank you all for making this part of your Friday night, Friday evening, depending on the time of day it is where you are. If you guys have questions, comments, please comment below. We got all night. I've got nowhere to be. So post them below. Let me know your thoughts on any questions you have, Chiefs related or non-Chiefs related. Maybe that means Kelce will come out swinging. Yeah, he said this on his podcast, and he also said this in his press conference today. Talked about, you know, he'll play any team, anywhere. Doesn't matter if it's, you know, concrete, bad grass. Okay, I don't really buy that part, but he basically made it clear he doesn't care about the time difference and all these kinds of things. The Chiefs are actually not adjusting to the time difference. They're actually treating this like an 8:30 a.m. game. So they're trying to keep everyone on this, or like almost like they're working around Central Time Zone, which I think is very interesting. Not really sure how that's going to work, but apparently that's what they did in London. So I'm not the coach. I'm not the guy with the plan. Someone else has that. So, and by the way, I know Kelce's been dealing with a lot of criticism this week for attending the World Series. I heard Joe Valerio comment on this. Listen, when you get, it's, you know, Friday after practice. Okay, the players are usually they go out. Kelce, I saw this on, I think it was his agent or manager's Instagram. It's not like he's flying on Southwest or Delta Airlines early the next day. I mean, the guy came back the same night back home on a private charter flight. These super cool celebrities like Mahomes, Kelce, Taylor Swift. We have to mention Taylor Swift at some point. They have their charter flights and they can go at any time, anywhere. Okay. I mean, that's just the way they get to do life. So I'm sure like the next day was a travel day. You really think Kelce had to be in bed and not do anything? Come on. And again, here's the other thing. Like, do you really think Kelce attending the World Series was related to Mahomes throwing 2 picks? Was Kelce attending the World Series related to McCole Hardman fumbling the punt return, or MVS fumbling the ball, or Sky Moore losing side of the football? Come on. I saw this a couple of years ago. People were like, oh, Andy Reid, because at the time Andy Reid's son was in court doing all these different things, trying to figure out his case. And people were like, oh, his son is the reason why the Chiefs are starting slow. And I saw a comment that was like, yes, Orlando Brown allowing sacks and pressures is why, you know, that's related to Britt Reid. It's like, it's actually a solid point. A lot of former players pinned it on that situation, though, that slow start in 2021. But we're getting off topic there. Hey, listen, I have no problems with trash talking. I think it's cool. I really do. Like when the Bengals were doing the whole like Burrowhead thing, I had no problems with it. Did I like it? No. But hey, man, like let's spice some things up. I don't care. And then when you lose, obviously it backfires. Which again, like that's the thing to me is like obviously the Bengals did all that trash talking with the Burrowhead and the mayor. And this is I heard this on Barstool Sports too. Which I think a lot of people know what Barstool's stance is on the Chiefs, even though they're starting to come around on the Chiefs, which I think is funny. But, you know, you do all that talking and then you complain about the refs or, you know, players who didn't get snaps they should have gotten. It's like, come on. Game comes on 7:30 here, but I am still going to have a Brut and a beer. Show solidarity for our German fans. Chris, you are doing it right, my brother. That is how you enjoy what, like 14 hours of football? Go for it, man. Chiefs offered 58 million, Miami 70, and Jets 76. He did say it was a tax thing. You are right. That was pretty funny. Thought I saw yesterday that the Chiefs were going to go into this game with 3 open roster spots. I don't think so. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be inactive. You're going to have some inactives. I don't think they placed him on IR though. Or did they? Let's see. Nope. The only guys on IR: Nick Bolton, Jody Fortson, Richie James, Nazeeh Johnson, Prince Higa-Wanagu, and then on the reserve, suspended by commissioner, Justin Ross. Now, Saturday generally is the day where teams do make that adjustment. So that is possible. Yeah, but Paul, there's a salary cap, man. And you know this, I'm sure. Everyone does. I understand, like, the Chiefs, we're not. I mean, they don't have all the flexibility to make a move. And I see people who keep saying, well, they can restructure deals. Yeah, if the players agree to them. Listen, I think Kelsey has done it plenty of times. So has Mahomes. I know Joe Tooney has restructured his deal at least once. I want to say twice. I mean, you have been paying players and then you've redone some of their contracts. So yeah, not every player is going to agree to that kind of thing. Is P&L going to be open that early? I remember we talked about this game earlier, the 2015 playoff win over the Texans, the first playoff win in 22 years. I remember they were trying to do a watch party at P&L because just 2 months before that, they obviously had lots of fans for the World Series games. So they tried to do that for the playoff game back then, but nobody was willing to. Plus, it was like cold as hell. It was packed for all the Super Bowls, though. 2020 excluded, of course, for very obvious. Well, technically 2021, but you got the idea. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I've never been to P&L that early before. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, I've been to the I was about to say Sprint Center, but now it's the T-Mobile Center. I've been there early for work for Big 12 tournament games, but not the actual P&L venue. So I'm curious to see what it looks like on Sunday, if they're going to be pictures online. Travis and Patrick are grown men and they can do what they want on their own time. It's the optics that are being questioned, and the fact that they underperformed magnified it. I don't know, man. I remember several years ago, someone got a photo of Travis Kelce drinking at Westport. For those of you who are not from Kansas City, Westport is basically it's a really great area. A lot of great restaurants, bars, some shopping centers, some places to shop as well. Not like the Plaza or anything like that. It's like kind of a much smaller version of the Plaza. But a lot of bars. That is where, like, if it's a Friday night or a Saturday night, you want to go out somewhere, Westport is one of the spots to go to, as is P&O. Someone mentioned that earlier. This was like 40 hours before the Chiefs played the Broncos in 2016. And that was, I think, Christmas night, that game. And someone was trying to stir up some shit saying, oh, Kelsey's not taking the Broncos seriously. And then he went up just flat out dominating the Broncos in that game. Obviously, if the Chiefs lost that game, a lot of people were going to bring up him drinking at P&L. Kelsey going out and drinking, I remember in 2019 was a huge deal when they lost to the Colts. It's like, I don't know, man. I can't remember if it was the Colts or the Texans. I don't remember. People just need to chill out, man. Listen, we've all, I think a lot of us have been to college before. I've gone out the night before like an exam. Okay. Now I also studied plenty for that to the point where I felt like, okay, I was good. I can go out and have a little bit of a night. I had classes Friday late in the morning, but I would still go out. Thursday night was the night to go out in Lawrence. I don't know about other colleges. I can't really speak for that, but neither here nor there. 1 a.m. in Australia, Robert. Yeah, I've always said you guys and all those outside of the U.S., man, you guys, props to you. You guys wake up at different times to watch these games. Some of you guys have to get up like really early to catch a Chiefs game. 31-27. That's what I said on Wednesday's podcast, so I'm sticking with that. Going to a sports bar here in St. Pete, Florida with a couple other Chiefs fans Sunday morning. Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah, I would imagine sports bars love these international games because they can open early. Especially for like those who don't have NFL Network. That's probably like a spot to go to, and they can catch some games and enjoy. I used to run the streets in Westport in the 90s. Oh, good for you, Brian. Oh man. You know, Westport's gosh, what was, I can't remember the place across from Kelly's, and it's like in the same intersection as Kelly's and Beer Kitchen. There was a really, really nice place. They had like a great outdoor area as well during the summertime. I can't recall it's changed. I want to say McCoy's. Don't remember it though. P&L is where I went to more often than Westport. Westport was like, it's all right. I like it. I just would not go there at night. P&L is a little safer. But that's also, P&L is also like more for like the younger crowd. Well, okay, kind of a lie. I don't know. It's also super damn expensive. Because I know a lot of younger people would go to Westport just for like a cheaper night. But if you had enough money, some people had no problems going to P&L. I used to know people, like, again, this was like, I think this was like late in my time in college or right after college. I used to know people who would like straight out of college go live in like one of the apartments downtown, and they would go to P&L every fucking night. I'm like, how much money do you have? I don't know, man. Like, listen, my brother and I, we went for drinks before the KU Texas game in the championship, for the conference, not for the NCAA. Man, 2 beers was $26. No, listen, that's expected when you go to places like these. But if you're going every single night, or every single weekend, rather, every single night, I think you're pretty much hitting bankruptcy. But every single weekend, I mean, I don't know. I guess you own like Wells Fargo or some shit. Good on you. You do you. Plus, like over the years, like the whole like club scene just was not as appealing anymore at some point, like the loud noises and all that stuff. I mean, I don't know like how you guys are like over the years. The older I've gotten, the more I've learned to like appreciate like staying indoors. I used to be that guy in my 20s who was like, okay, if you do not go out on a Friday or a Saturday night, you do not have a life. And I guess that's like part of like being college age or, being a young adult. Now I'm like, okay, you know what? Staying home on a Friday night and Saturday night, playing video games or watching movies, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I've learned to appreciate that a lot, in fact. Let's see. Let's read a few more. If you guys, I know a lot of people have been going in and out. Appreciate you guys spending part of your Friday night with me. Have any questions, comments, whatever's on your mind, post them below. Let me know your thoughts. They lost tiebreak and refused Chris Jones. Okay, but Paul, I just said this in your other comment too, though. Like, there is a salary cap. It's not that they were refusing to pay Chris Jones. It's not that no one wants Chris Jones around. It's like you got to pick and choose. And by the way, I will say, I think keeping Chris Jones, it's starting to be more of a better option than re-signing some of your offensive linemen. Not that I want to lose Humphrey and Smith, and you still have another year with those guys, but they do have that option to demand a new deal. But given the lack of production on offense, not that it's the offensive lineman's fault, and given what Chris Jones has been doing, Chris Jones seems like a better idea. But there are ways to try to combat the salary cap. My suggestion was, and I'm sure it's easier said than done, but sign Chris Jones like a 3 or 4 year deal, make it heavy, front loaded, and then for Humphrey and for Smith, if you want to resign them or extend them, rather, great. If not, I guess you can pay Chris Jones his first year in a new deal, and then you can give Humphrey and Smith whatever deal they want. After Chris Jones' first year, you can keep Chris Jones for a couple more years, and then you can do what you want and hopefully keep those two guys long-term on your offensive line, because that's pretty important. Wide receiver is also important, but protecting your franchise quarterback, in my opinion, comes first. I know with Orlando Brown, Brett Veach did offer that 6-year deal, and apparently the word is the reason Orlando Brown declined was because it was a more, I can't remember if it was heavily front-loaded or back-loaded. I want to say it was heavily front-loaded, but I may have that wrong. I was glad he declined. I know a lot of you guys felt the same way, but I don't know. It would not shock me if Brett Veach tried to do that again with the two offensive linemen there. Richie James, questionable. Is there a chance he's coming back? Maybe. I'm not really holding my breath on that. I don't know. I don't think he plays this Sunday. That's just my guess. We'll find out tomorrow. Like in 36 hours, we'll probably get some sort of an answer there. Watching from my living room and 55-inch TV with the cheap, my alcohol, it's 5 p.m. somewhere. Fair enough. Yeah, it's just, and here's my thing. Like, I'll have people over for the games. My family and I, we watch every game together. That's just something we've done since my brother and I have been kids. I think there may have been like only a handful of games where I've not watched a Chiefs game with my brother or my family. So I'll watch every game with them. But in terms of like watch parties at home or going to someone else's watch party or going to a sports bar, I can't do it. I have to like focus on the game. I can't like whenever I have people over, obviously, like when you have people over, you can't make the game a priority, or you have to be a good host. You can't be an asshole and have people over and just tell them what to do. So it's like, your attention is taken away from the game and focus on other stuff. So, and listen, I know a lot of you guys have even commented. They're like, oh, we need to meet up at a watch party. It's like, I always appreciate that stuff, that people want to like watch a game with me. But no, I just can't focus on the game. And a lot of you guys have asked over the years, it's like, why do I not do a live stream during the games? Like give live reactions? Hell no. I definitely will not be able to focus on the game if I do that. I like to enjoy some of the game. Plus, if you guys were to like watch me live, you guys are basically going to say, wow, what a fucking maniac this guy is. He's just like me. So you guys are not missing much for me not doing that. The Chiefs are, you're right, Brian. The Chiefs are, and I know you're responding to Paul's comment. I know the Chiefs are trying to do that where you make your quarterback happy and then you try to draft well everywhere else. And Brett Veach, I think, has done a great job with the draft. Listen, I know the biggest knock on Brett Veach is wide receivers. By the way, let's talk about this for a moment, because the Mecole Hardman draft pick, a lot of people keep saying, well, you could have had DK Metcalf. Okay, but if you look at Patrick Mahomes, there were 10 teams that passed on Patrick Mahomes. The Buffalo Bills had the 10th pick, and they gave it to Patrick Mahomes. The number 9 pick was John Ross, who was taken by Cincinnati, coincidentally ended up in Kansas City. And I remember when John Ross came here, when he signed with the Chiefs, the his fame to claim is like he was picked one spot before Mahomes, but obviously no longer in the league. So, we can sit here and talk about how Brett Veach screwed up the McCole Hardman pick. Okay. We can also talk about how Patrick Mahomes was passed on by 10 teams. We can also talk about how Travis Kelce was passed on in 2 rounds. Even the Chiefs passed up on Travis Kelce, which I know redo mock drafts are a very popular thing in the media and for fans to read. If you redo the 2013 draft, who has the number 1 pick? Still Kansas City. So Travis Kelce ends up going in that spot. So to me, it's like, okay, find me a general manager, okay, that bats 1,000 in these drafts. I don't care if you are the best football team, even Belichick, a team that dominated for 18 years. They missed on a lot of their draft picks. They also hit home runs on a lot of draft picks too. Seattle, for that short time where Seattle was just dominating, they went to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Man, they were drafting really, really well. You look at some of their draft picks, especially in later rounds. Brett Veach, I don't disagree. The knock on him is the wide receivers, but at the same time, Brett Veach has also had, Isaiah Pacheco. How many times did you guys watch a game last year and you heard the announcers say, how was Isaiah Pacheco a 7th round pick? A lot of times. Again, I mentioned Mahomes, not a Veach pick, but Veach was the guy who really helped start that process for trying to target Mahomes and bring him to Kansas City. Okay, Kelce is obviously definitely a John Dorsey pick, but you get the idea, okay? Actually, Brian just mentioned Justin Houston in his comment. Justin Houston was a 3rd round pick. Obviously, if you redo 2011's draft, Justin Houston's going in the 1st round. 2016, the Chiefs, they had a 1st round pick. They traded out of the 1st round. That pissed off a lot of Chiefs fans because a lot of Chiefs fans showed up to the watch party that year. But who did the Chiefs end up with from that draft class? Chris Jones and Tyreek Hill. And even though Tyreek Hill is no longer on the team and Chris Jones, there are some question marks as to whether or not this is going to be his last year in Kansas City. They still won a Super Bowl with those 2 guys as very important players for helping win that Super Bowl. You get the idea. Like, yes, Brett Veach, he fumbled on the McCole Hardman pick, but he's also hit home runs on a lot of other picks. You're not going to find a general manager that hits every single pick a home run. You're just not. And I know in Kansas City, for so many years, we've always talked about, well, you drafted John Baldwin, you could have drafted this person. You drafted Tyson Jackson, you could have drafted this person. You could have drafted Glenn Dorsey. Remember Glenn Dorsey, the best player to come out of the NFL draft in the last 15 years? That guy. But there were other options on the board. Jamal Charles from the same draft class as Glenn Dorsey. Okay, I'm going to stop there because you guys get the idea. Jeff says, hi, Farzine, just got home from a business trip to Tampa. I didn't get robbed like the Chiefs did when they were. Oh, wow. Jeff, what are you doing, dude? We're trying to turn things around this week, and here comes Jeff with the like that slap in the face right there. No, I've heard good things about Tampa. My experience in Florida, and by the way, I hope it sounds like you had a good time in Tampa, so that's good. I've been to Orlando once. I didn't get to explore the city too much. So it was my broadcasting class senior year. There goes my light. And it was all right. Can't wait with that. Oh, that trophy right there. You guys can't see it very well, but that came from Orlando. I didn't get a chance to explore much of Orlando. Like, we went to Disney World and Universal Studios. I mean, that was okay. I've been to Key West a few times. My brother's 21st birthday, I think it was. We went to Key West, and I can't remember what year that was. I want to say 2015 or 14. Man, Key West has changed a lot. Like, if you've ever been to Duval Street, man, I love that place. But when I went, the last time I went, Duval Street was completely different. I don't know how many of you guys have been to Key West or have been to Duval Street, but it was kind of disappointing. Like a lot of stores have closed, and I'm sure it has to do with the weather there, the hurricanes that they deal with and whatnot. It's crazy. I mean, listen, every area has their, like some areas deal with tornadoes. Obviously, we deal with that in the Midwest. A lot of places on the East Coast deal with hurricanes. So, and by the way, on my other podcast, Farscast, I had Max Shepman on. Really cool guy. He and I used to podcast for the same network years ago. He's working in TV media now as a photographer, and we talked about. He's in the Florida area, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, that area. And one of my questions was, man, when there's a hurricane, everyone gets the hell out. But I've seen on his Instagram, he doesn't get out. He's there filming the hurricane. All the response, all the reactions there, all that, sharing that for the media. We haven't talked about shutting down Tyreek Hill, shutting up Tyreek Hill. We may or may not have touched on that. As far as like shutting him down, the Chiefs do have probably the most underrated secondary in the NFL. I think Justin Reid is underappreciated in Kansas City. I really do. I think a lot of Chiefs fans, like, whenever the time comes, Justin Reid leaves. If the Chiefs cannot properly find the right replacement, I think a lot of Chiefs fans are going to realize Justin Reid's value. And I hope people can come around before that happens, because Justin Reid's a phenomenal safety. I don't think he's Tyrann Mathieu or Eric Berry, but he is a very good safety that can get the job done for you. Here is how you shut down Tyreek Hill, though. You got to get to Tua. That is what Buffalo did. Remember that Buffalo-Miami game? Everyone thought that was going to be a shootout. It ended up being a blowout than a shootout. So, to me, it's like, if you're the Chiefs, and by the way, I see this other question from David, who are the Chiefs planning on defending Hill? I think it's going to depend on certain packages and whatnot. What side Tyreek Hill's going to line up on, which side the quarterbacks. I mean, that'll always change throughout the game. Would not surprise me if Jalen Watson gets a majority of those responsibilities, a majority of those snaps to defend Tyreek Hill. But you have to get to Tua. Whenever Tua is sacked 4 or more times, the Dolphins are 1-4. So sack Tua 4 times. And by the way, even though like the Chiefs defense did nothing wrong last week, did they allow some yardage, especially on the ground? Yes. But man, Russell Wilson played like shit last week. He got sacked 6 times. Okay. This Chiefs defense has no problems whatsoever getting to the quarterback. If you look at every single game this year, including the 2 games the Chiefs have lost, you can find a lot of positives from the Chiefs defense. Yes, the Chiefs allowed 24 points, the most they've allowed in a game this year, but that's not on them. 5 turnovers plays a big hand in forcing the defense to stay out there. And listen, fortunately, the quarterback was Russell Wilson. If it was Miami, like if you commit 5 turnovers against Miami, you're giving up 40, maybe 50. Okay. So the Chiefs cannot be committing 5 turnovers again. I trust that this team will clean it up and not commit that kind of those kinds of mistakes 2 weeks in a row. Though I will say the Chiefs have not been very good at taking care of the football with turnovers and drops. So that is one thing that does concern me going into the game. But if you can get to the quarterback, and again, the Chiefs have the unit for that. George Karlaftis, that guy is playing like one of the best pass rushers, edge rushers in the NFL right now. That is a home run hit. You want to talk about Brett Veach missing on wide receivers? Okay, let's talk about Brett Veach hitting on George Karlaftis. I still remember people saying that was going to be a bust pick. So George Karlaftis playing very well. Chris Jones, I'm not going to get into Chris Jones. His name speaks for itself. Mike Dana, this guy has been very good this year. Probably playing way better than any of us ever anticipated. Charles Omenihu has come back for a couple of games now, and he's already made an impact. So you have the front line to get to Tua. That's not a concern to me. But they've got to be very quick. Because I don't think your secondary, as great as the secondary has been, they've done a very good job of trying to see these route runners and try to see if they're telegraphing where their routes are going to be. And for the most part, they've done a good job on that. It's not a very easy thing to do as a defensive back. If I were to play football, you guys would probably boo the hell out of me. But if there was one position I would not want to play, I would never want to play a cornerback or safety. Never. That is very difficult. That is, you have a lot of responsibilities. And if you do well, great, you're going to get talked about. If you miss your assignment or if you just fuck up, dude, everyone's going to be talking about it. Playing secondary in the NFL is not very easy. Very difficult position to play in the NFL, college. But the Chiefs have done a really good job with that. But I don't know if they can really hang with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. The Bills secondary does not have all these all pros on there. They don't. But what they did was they got to the quarterback and they didn't have to worry about Tyreek Hill being shut down by their secondary. Their front line took care of that. If you guys have NFL Plus, or even if you don't have NFL Plus, just go to YouTube and watch highlights of the Bills Dolphins game. That to me right there, like if I'm Andy Reid, and I'm not, but if I was a head coach, that's the game film I would be studying the hell out of the most to say, look, this is how you beat Miami. This is how you make sure they don't go off like they have in so many of their games this year. So very long answer to a very simple question. Let's see. Robert says, are we considered the home team? Yes. This is the second home game that is going to be overseas. The London game against the Lions, that was a home game. Home, you know what I mean. And this is also a home game. The one in Mexico against the Chargers, that was an away game. The one that was supposed to be in Mexico against the Rams, that was also an away game, but obviously they changed it back to LA. I was about to say St. Louis. They changed it back to LA for obvious reasons because of the field situation there. Thank you, William. Or excuse me, Williams. Appreciate that. I try. For every Denver score, the defense had to defend a short field. Yeah, that's. I think you meant for every Denver turnover. The Chiefs turning the ball over against Denver. Yeah, that did not help. Listen, man, defenses always get shit for allowing yards and touchdowns, but man, when you commit so many turnovers. Time of possession is probably one of the more underrated stats in football. I know so many like casual football fans don't buy into that, and they buy into the notion that, both teams are on the field at the same time. Okay, but time of possession benefits an offense far more than it does a defense. Defenses are gassed out, and the longer you deal with the wrong side of time of possession, those defensive backs are going to start giving up big plays. And even then, the Chiefs were not giving up those big home run plays. They really weren't, which, again, worries me that if the Chiefs do have another game this year where they commit a lot of turnovers, a team like Miami or Philadelphia, Buffalo, they're going to take advantage of that. Not to say Denver didn't. They absolutely did. But it's not like Denver took that game away. And it was still a close game in the fourth quarter. So the Chiefs, that's why the Chiefs have got to clean this up, man. They're the second worst in the NFL in turnovers or giveaways, rather, and they're the worst in dropped passes. You got to clean that up, because you're not going to beat teams like the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Bills in the second half of the season. I'll even say the Chargers. I know they always get overhyped, but they always play the Chiefs very close. So that's my long rant there. If we get consistent pressure our front four, we'll be all right. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. And I know so many people are like, oh, the defense bails Mahomes out. It's either the defense or the refs. Listen, I have no issues with the defense being the MVP. Do you know how many times Mahomes has had to bail his defense out through his first year as a starter? Mahomes had, in his redshirt rookie season, Mahomes had the second worst defense in the NFL. So I've got no problems with the defense picking up the slack this time. Like one season, the defense picks up the slack. I don't have an issue with that. Yeah, FAU has been quiet this year. I'm not ready to call him a bust because he hasn't played much either. They don't need him to play much. They've been just okay without him, which, you kind of look back at it for the time being right now. You wish that, you got a wide receiver instead. But, in 2 or 3 years, if Mike Dana's not back, if Chris Jones is not back, well, then who's going to be the leader at the defensive line? Probably Carl Loftus and FAU. So, yeah, sure, I agree, Brian. FAU, he's not really living up to that first-round draft pick status this year, but in 2 years, he might be a very important player for this team. Appreciate that. Thanks, Brian. Gwen says if McKinnon is out, which running back will be added from the practice squad? I don't think he's gonna be out. Let me look at the injury report one more time. The only running back that is for sure out is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Richie James and Willie Gay are the two questionable players. Jerick McKinnon was a full participant Friday, and he does not have a game status next to his name on the injury report. I didn't realize how big the injury report was, by the way. Miami's injury report is even bigger, which really is not a surprise. I mean, it's halfway through the season. Everyone's dealing with all kinds of things. But no, Jerick McKinnon will play. He will play this week, unless something changes tomorrow. What's up, Christopher? Thanks for joining us. We're actually getting close to wrapping things up here. Jeff says, I'm not worried yet, just concerned. Wide receivers aren't executing well 70% of the time, hoping the defense can continue to carry us until offense syncs up. Yeah. Well, if there was a time for the offense to sync up, this is the week for it, 100%. It's got to happen soon. Can't really happen later. I mean, you're starting to play some better teams. And listen, the Chiefs have, they're the two best teams I think the Chiefs have played are, well, I'll say three: the Lions, the Jaguars, and the Chargers. Their two big wins are the Jaguars and Chargers. I know record-wise, the Chargers win does not look as good, but that is a very good offensive football team. And for the Chiefs to shut them out in the second half, I think says something. Nick Bolton goes out with an injury, no problem. Drew Tranquill just flat out dominates the rest of the game. And Drew Tranquill he played great filling in for Nick Bolton during those 3 games he was absent for. So I'm actually excited to see more of Drew Tranquill. And hopefully the Chiefs can keep him for a while because he's a very underrated linebacker. We are so focused on Hill, we need to watch Mr. Waddle. Yeah, Waddle's an important player. That running back duo with Mostert and Achane, that's another one. Like, those two guys are in the top 10 for perspective. Isaiah Pacheco, who, I wish they ran the ball with him more. Isaiah Pacheco is 11th in the NFL in rushing. Mostert and Achane are in the top 10 in rushing yards, which is insane. Reminds me a lot of Thomas Jones and Jamal Charles, but much better, way better. So, Chiefs defense is going to have their hands full. You got Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle, Achane, Mostert. You got a lot of guys to account, a lot of top tier players. Is Achane out? Let me look at the injury report one more time. Or did they put him on IR? I don't think I've seen anything that says he's not. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe okay. Maybe he is an IR and I didn't realize that, but they still have a lot of guys to account for. All right. That'll do it. We've gone more than an hour. Man, these Red Friday live chats always fly by. It always feels like these are it goes by faster than the podcast. They really do. Hey, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for joining me for this Friday night. Anytime I start these live streams, I'm like, is anyone gonna watch this on a Friday night? The answer is yes. So thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. You guys have been awesome. Robert, enjoy your have a cold one down under. Brian, Gwen, Jeff, Christopher, Brian, Williams, David, Denny, Paul, Lewis, Rob, Angelita, another Dave, Chris, Nick, Vincent, Brett. Let's see. Don't want to miss anyone. Deb, a spammer, Todd, Joshua, Gabriel, Vincent. I think I mentioned Vincent already, but just in case. Much appreciated. All of you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm going to get out of here. Reminder, we will be live Sunday, 7:30 Central Time in the morning. We will do our pregame live chats. Nothing's changed. I will be up early Sunday. Trust me. I'm hoping I can make it all the way for Sunday Night Football because there's going to be, from start to finish, got a full slate of games that are all going to be great. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm afraid I'm going to tap out during Sunday Night Football. All right. So pregame live chat, we're doing that Sunday, 7:30 Central Time, halftime live stream as we do each and every single game. And then once the game goes to an end, I will be doing the podcast live stream afterwards. So join me for that. My name is Farzin Vousoughian. Thank you guys again for watching this. I'm out. Enjoy the rest of your Red Friday.